My name's Shaun Price. I'm a security engineer. A little bit about me because I think everyone, I don't know why I do these about me slides. I don't think most of you care, but I think it's kind of you have to do it to make me feel awkward. That's why I do it. So I am a UVU graduate right here in the Valley. I was on the 10-year plan. A lot of people go to college for more than 4 years. They're called doctors. Thank you. Thank you. I am a Wireshark / packet capture aficionado. I've got the reputation around work and pretty much everyone who knows me that if you come to me with a problem, you better come with a PCAP. That's just kind of how it goes. I have strong opinions about VLANs and network segmentation, which kind of leads us to why we had this talk here today. My other hobbies, I'm a mountain bike enthusiast here in the state of Utah. It's a great place to live. I love old school stereo systems, everything from vinyls to, yes, those vehicles you hear 2 miles down the road. Yeah, still do that. I like fast cars, 3D printing, and most breakfast foods. So when we talk about IoT, and I hate using buzzwords, but here I am using buzzwords in my prezzo in the first few minutes, there's two people, really, when it comes to IoT. You got the first group that says, hey, we're going to use it, and we're going to use it in a responsible manner and whatnot. And then you have the people that scoff and go, well, I'm just never going to do it. And in a book I read back in high school, it was a great book called The Heretic, they said, the former is like locking your home when you leave so everything's left undisturbed when you return. The latter is like burning your house to the ground. Both of those are effective way to keep people from getting your stuff. Like honestly, both of them work. First one's a little bit more fun. Now, right now you may be wondering, why are you showing me a camera from 2005? Am I in the right room? No, you are. Trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. This is an APTEC MPVR. This was the height of 2005 video recording technology, kind of. It was a 640 by 480 resolution CMOS, that's loose, CMOS video sensor. It did 1280 by 1024 still image capture. It was an MP3 player. It was an MP4 player. It was a voice recorder. It could read text documents. You know what it did well? Nothing. It wasn't a good camera. It was a terrible video, like to watch a movie on the 2.4-inch screen, worst experience ever. Now, how am I going to tie this into IoT? Your washing machine company probably makes a good washing machine. Your door lock company probably makes a decent door lock, except from this morning, maybe not so much. What happens when they say, you know what we're going to do? Do you know what our product needs? It needs an Ethernet port or Wi-Fi. That's what it needs. And so they're just going to go find the cheapest, quickest way they can shove that out the door and say, we have internet connectivity. We can add that bullet point. We are now IoT ready. And we'll just leave it on the consumers to kind of figure it out for us. So remember, as we go through some of these things that we talk about today, remember the lowly APTEC. Most of these things probably aren't going to be done very well. Categories I want to talk about is IP cameras, staying with the camera theme, your smart TVs, and the casting paradigm. We'll talk about that. Home automation, I'm really into that, and it's a lot of fun. Some protocols you may or may not be using on your home network. You are, trust me. How to get some secure remote access, and then striking this balance, this fabled balance between security and usability. So first thing I'm going to do is bring up a typical home network map. Your home network may or may not look like this. I am in a room of security professionals, so maybe it's a little bit more, a little bit tighter than this. But I think some of you are lying to yourself to say it does not look like this. You've got your flat network, your default, and the modem router they gave you. It has the default credentials. Probably doesn't here, but a lot of times it does. You toss some IP cameras on there, some workstations. You got a NAS because you want to do a backup. You bought some cool smart light switches, and then you have a ridiculously huge cell phone in your pocket. Now, talking about cameras, that's the first thing we're going to hit. There's kind of two main styles people are doing with cameras now. You've got your always connected, your cloud connected. A lot of people are doing this, like the VSASs is what they're calling this, video surveillance as a service. You got your consumer grade, your Rings, your Arlos, your cloud cams. Samsung's in this arena as well, except you actually can pull an RTSP stream from most Samsung cameras, which is pretty cool. And then you got your local like your local style, right? These are the folks that you roll your own. You got your cheap Amazon, AliExpress, eBay cameras. Foscam, Armcast, kind of some brands you may or may not have heard of in the past. And then there's also the Ubiquiti Unify system. Lorex makes some. There's a lot of people in this arena. I'm going to focus on local stuff. Obviously, you have to run your NVR with those, so we're going to focus on the local for now. When you look at the camera options, as you can see, there's some fine quality cameras here. Judging by the prices here, we're knocking on, what, $18? $20? To make a camera that has some type of compute in it and has a video recording sensor, like a sensor of some sort, probably has audio, Ethernet of some sort, packaging, shipping, all that, and you're paying $18 for this camera, some corners are being cut, folks. You're not getting the pinnacle of security technology with these cameras. And you'd think, well, I'll put them on my private network, that'll be fine. No, people don't put them on their private networks all the time. So what they'll do is they'll say, hey, let's just throw these on this flat network. We've got them all sitting here on our default 192.168.1.0/24. And we get an NVR of some sorts, you know, your Blue Irises, your Synology, ZoneMinder, Shinobi, they're all good. And they put them flat. And they deploy these cameras and they say, great, I've got a home video surveillance system and I did it for $18 a camera. Got a good deal, right? How sure are you that these cameras are staying local? Are we sure? Well, this particular winner that I bought, made by our friends at hosafe.com. Don't know where that naming came from. He was having a great time on all these high UDP ports, reaching out to some random IP address. Right when I plugged him in, first thing it did. Now, you might be wondering, well, or not wondering, you might be thinking, well, look at the packet lengths. They're not that long. There's probably not that much data going out there. It's probably something innocuous. That's heading out to China. Okay, and you're probably right. You're probably thinking it's going out to China. It's probably just for their app. Is there an app? There is an app for this camera. And I'm sure, I'm making finger quotes for anyone just listening, I'm sure that's secure, and I'm sure that app that you wrote so you can get back to your camera is secure and primo. I promise. This is a lie. Please recognize the sarcasm. I don't want anyone to say I said that. Please. Yeah, just heading out to China. Don't know what it's doing. Random UDP high port. This camera is a trooper, though. I've had it deployed in my house, and I use this. Like, don't get me wrong, I use this camera, and I'll tell you how I use it in the future. This camera, since I deployed it, has sent 6,023,801 DNS queries and gotten no answers. This is a sad camera, but it persists. It tries a lot to get out to the internet. It's doing its best. It's living its best life. Because this is what mine looks like. I've got all these cameras VLAN'd off on this VLAN 12, and guess what else VLAN 12 can do? Nothing. Oh, surely you give it you let it have DNS. No, I don't. It doesn't get DNS. Well, you give it time sync. Maybe. I don't, but you probably could get away with giving a time sync on a local source or on your gateway if you really wanted to. But yeah, they're all VLAN'd off, living in their best life, hanging out on this VLAN by themselves. Guess what else they do? They port scan to say, hey, are there other cameras here? And all the other cameras go, yeah, we're here. It's kind of lonely on this network. There's just cameras here. Yeah, that's all that's there. Enjoy. My NVR has got one single rule into that network for an RTSP stream to reach out to those cameras individually and pull that video feed. And my camera NVR, actually, believe it or not, can't go anywhere else either. It is orphaned by itself, talking to that. Now, a lot of people try to accomplish this by dual homing your NVR. Don't create a bridge, that's a bad idea. But I've got it sitting in a protected server network by itself in isolation mode, doing a little east-west filtering there, so it can talk to cameras and it can talk to me when I actually want to pull that data up. So that's my camera paradigm. Feel free to use those cheap cameras, just orphan them for me, because they're going to try 6,023,801 times to go do a DNS query, and maybe more. You don't know. Smart TVs. Who has a smart TV? Everyone, yeah. Remember when TVs were like displays? And you had like HDMI ports on them and you watched TVs. Remember when that was a thing? Now it's like, well, which app's best? And my remote can be a wand. What is this? Now, when you set your TV up, did you carefully read all those agreements? Or did you go, next, 300th watching a Firefly, go? I know you did, because I did too. Most people plop them on their default network because that's a lot of fun, just shove it on there, let it go out to the internet. I did some research. On the New York Times, there's a company called Samba TV, and they interviewed this Samba TV, and they're like, well, what do? We do data for TV watching. And at the end of 2016, over 90% of the consumers opted into this data watching. 90%, 9 out of 10, right? And then subtext, our business model does subsidize a small piece of the television hardware. You ever notice TVs getting cheaper? Obviously, there are manufacturing improvements and whatnot, and things do get cheaper, but something to think about. So this is them. This is their mantra, so to speak. Stop searching and start watching with Samba TV. That sounds fun. That sounds great. Let's do that. They make TV personal, they make it intelligent, and they make it data-driven. Who wants in on this? This sounds great, doesn't it? Reading just some small things, and I made this way too small for myself, even with my laser vision. Device information. They collect some device identifiers. We may also discover when your smart TV is available to connect with a mobile device, which can, for example, be used to make pairing your devices easier. That's polite of them. They'll scan my network and see what mobile devices I have. That's great. Thank you for doing that. That's great. We also have some apps, and we receive viewing information when you use our smart TV apps or third-party smart TV apps that use our integrated services. You can opt in, and we can recognize the content you're playing on your TV. Is anyone creeped out yet? A little bit? That you just clicked next and started watching your show? Yeah, I'm creeped out. I already am. And they also have your precise location information, which is random. Like, I'm sure it's for marketing, and they want to create that build or that our online persona of our marketing thing, and they're going to be like, wow, that Shaun guy watched the same show every day. He is a loser. Use of information, go ahead and just skim through that. Everything. We use it for everything. Who gets it? Everyone. Everyone gets it. We're not gonna hold that from anyone. Any information you give us or we glean from you, we're just gonna hand that out to everyone. Great. Now, here's the kind of the good stuff. It says we require TV manufacturers to provide an opt-in method. There is, and it's buried in your menus during your initial setup and after every patch update. So every time your TV updates, you're like, hey, do you need to accept these new terms? Guess what? You could be opting back in. So when your TV patches, have a look-see, see if you've opted back in. Now, me being the person I am and doing the things I like to do, I've got this superpower, and it really is my superpower. I make things awkward with everyone, and you're all like going, yeah, you do. I went into a local electronics retailer. I won't say which one. There's a lot of them here, though. And I walked in with a universal remote. And I started going to every single TV and going through every single menu to build you this list. This is your opt-out list on how to turn that off. I also distribute the slides after, so don't worry taking about a photo or whatever. Parenthetically, most retailers actually didn't care that I had a universal remote and I'm sitting there scrolling through every menu option. They didn't care. It was really funny. So naturally, I'm going to push that boundary a bit. I walked in with my laptop, an Ethernet switch, a few Cat6 cables, and started Wiresharking their TVs. Fun fact, they don't like that. I may or may not be welcome at certain electronic retailers along the Wasatch Front. Bonus, COVID, I was wearing a mask. And they probably just watched this. I'm Shaun, sorry about Wiresharking your TVs. Some managers were really cool and some were terrible. Like some were like, hey bud, you can't do that. Others like, we're gonna call the police. I'm like, for Wiresharking? I need a shirt. Remember the skateboarding's not a crime shirt? I need a Wiresharking's not a crime shirt. Someone like makes one that, I'll buy it. So that's your opt-out list. I'll distribute that after so you can do it. If you really want to be paranoid, and I believe you, don't use a smart TV. Don't give it Ethernet. Don't give it Wi-Fi. Use a dongle that you trust, or use use a laptop with an HDMI cord. Just don't give it connectivity if you want to stay completely safe. If you want to kind of strike a balance there, you can brush off your IDS/IPS skills and segment off Samba TV or Samsung and all that. If you do have to connect to the Wi-Fi, which I'm dreading the day when your TV has to activate itself, but if it does happen, you could do host isolation on your access point, and I'll get a little bit more into that in the future, or in this talk soon. Who recognizes this symbol right here? Google Cast? We all like Google Cast, right? Means whatever you've got, you can play it bigger. Bigger screen, bigger speakers, whatever you call that. Well, thanks to the beauty of MDNS, Google Cast makes sure everyone knows what you're doing. It says, hey, you've got this nifty Chromecast, and you've named it Theater Cheesecake. Fun fact, Theater Cheesecake was supposed to be Theater Chromecast, but autocorrect, and I am too lazy to change it. So literally, I cast to the theater cheesecake. And I do like cheesecake, so it works. This bottom here, you see a lot of the fields here. You can actually Google this and get the whole spec out there. But FN, your friendly name, and then right here is your application. YouTube is what you're at. Now what happens if you're on Android phone and you're in the same broadcast domain on the same segment, you get this nice notification. Everyone seen this on their Android phone before? Someone's casting on your network. They're casting Plex as the application. Now, this is a recent change, but historically, when the Chromecast first came out, if you decided to cast a web page, right? A web page, it would actually go show the name of the web page of the video you're casting. So let's just say you're on a totally safe for work video website and you start casting. Everyone in your layer 2 network knows what you're watching. That has now changed. Luckily, it just gives you the application name. But before, when people were casting from certain websites, they had made sure everyone knows. If you want to turn that off, right there in the Google Home app, head on over to this option right here, where you say, let others control your cast media, turn that off, and that will keep it from letting everyone know what application in the Chromecast universe you're watching. Unless they have a Linux box, handy. Or if you just query for this using a VAHI, it'll give you everything you want about the Chromecast anyway, even if you turn that off. So, sorry. Be careful what Linux boxes you let them have out there, right? I want to talk about home automation now and lighting, right? This is a big arena now. In this arena, you've got two styles again. You're going to notice this pattern. You got your cloud connected, and they'll say something like, hey, this is hub free, or this is Google Home or Amazon Alexa branded, and they're almost always Wi-Fi. They're almost always going to run on 2.4 gig, so we can't kill off that spectrum at home, but they'll always run there. And there's tons of options. There's some that are legit, obviously. There's the TP-Link Casas they're out there, the Levitons, Philips Hue's really popular. But I want to focus a little bit more on these right here. These random light switches that you're buying now. I took this slide a while ago when I was doing my first research. They've actually gotten cheaper. You can actually get these down to about $9 a light switch now. For a Wi-Fi connected light switch, $9. Remember the Ape Tech. The other option, obviously, is to do it local. You got your Zigbees, your Z-Waves. Does anyone remember X10? X10 home automation? Did anyone ever have one of their doorbells turn into an alarm at 2 a.m.? Yeah, that made X10 get thrown out pretty quick for me, but whatever. These hubs can be either offline local, or cloud connected. Your offline ones would be your Habitats, your Home Assistants, OpenHab, great projects. The other option would be like a Samsung SmartThings, where you have a local hub, but it does have a cloud connected piece. But I want to talk specifically about these solid, cheap light switches. Now, I don't want to disparage any company in particular, and actually, after writing the slides up and sending a few emails, most of these have been shorn up, which is great. This is progress, and this is fantastic. However, I want to look at this problem more holistically, because I think it is still an issue when we start diving for the cheapest possible ways to do something. So here we have a light switch, $18.99 for a smart switch, 252 positive customer reviews. That seems like a winner to me. So I looked at one. I actually bought one to say that I have purchased the product. I never installed it, and you'll see why. Went to the website. Okay, looks like a modern website. I was welcomed with this really friendly message. We offer you a high-tech and cozy environment via smart control of your home facilities and lights. IoT era is coming to every family, and just open your arm to join us to enjoy an incredible, easy life. Love your family, love yourself. Well, that's pleasant. I mean, why wouldn't I sign up for this webpage? This is pleasant. I did happen to notice, though, they've got a sign-in page. All right, that's probably this is their marketing page. Let's head over to their app page, see what that looks like. I don't know how well you can see this in the back, but you don't see anything missing? Like where the giant red arrow is? Yeah, it's clear text, port 80. There's nothing there. So then I thought, okay, cool. It's just the landing page. Once I get out to the federated logins, it'll be fine. Let's go ahead and create an account. Nope. Still clear. Awkward. Needless to say, I did not create an account on this site today. Doing a little more digging, I looked up the who is. There was pretty much no information about it whatsoever, but it's some random place in China. Like I pointed out previously, there was no SSL on their sign-up page. They were using JAW tokens for their authentication, which is nice, but there's no SSL to mitigate a man in the middle. And without that nice CA-signed certificate of authority saying, yes, these people are who they are, I would never want to put any information there. So I thought, okay, the app's probably better. Let's download the app on a burner phone, not on my prod phone. Ask for some permissions. Okay, I want location. Location? Well, maybe they want to see me drive up to my house and they'll turn the lights on. Okay, benefit of the doubt. Photos, media files. Okay, struggling a little bit with this one. Storage. Settings, maybe you want to put on my phone, whatever. Camera. What am I going to do? Take a picture? Okay, take a picture of a QR code on the light switch, gives me instructions, maybe. Benefit of the doubt, we're still doing it. Microphone. Voice control, maybe? Wi-Fi connection information, device and app history, contacts. Are you going to call my mom and say, Shaun turned his lights on again? And by the way, we want phone and others too, right? Yeah, needless to say, I never installed it. Just take this as a word of warning. They now have SSL, good for them. They've got other things going for them, which is great. I'm just saying if you want to keep your home automation stuff happy, do it local. And it's gotten cheap enough that you don't have to rely on the third-party shady sites. Let's talk protocols. I love protocols. Here we go. Here's a network map again. I love bringing this up. You notice I've changed everything to our PlayStation and our Xbox. We still have a NAS. We have a tablet phone. That's a Switch. It looks great. You probably already know where I'm going to go with this, and I already apologize for the volume. This might get loud. I want to introduce you to the Kool-Aid man of protocols, UPnP. Oh, yeah! For those that don't know, UPnP, our good friend, makes it easy to punch a hole in your firewall and give NAT or PAT to a specific IP with no user interaction. Does that sound like a great idea to anyone? Now, a lot of multiplayer games have foregone the whole idea of saying, hey, we're going to have a lobby that we host, and you're going to connect to our game servers, and it'll be great. They say, hey, just go ahead and start a lobby, and then we'll do player lobbies and player hosting and peer-to-peer stuff. Have you ever plugged in a console and had it check your NAT type and seen it see strict or a D or something like that? That's because you didn't have UPnP on. It goes out and does it. What does that look like on the wire? That's what it looks like. It says, hey everyone, I'm the router, and if you want to talk to me, I will forward all the ports you want. You betcha, just let me know. So that's what that looks like on the wire. My advice, turn it off. And I'll tell you why. If you want to forward something into your private network, that should probably be a conscious decision. And I always say this, I always use this analogy. When you invite guests to your home, do you invite them to enter through a door, or do you allow them to chainsaw a hole in your side of your house? Please, use the door. That's what it was designed for. I make that decision whether you can come in and out. Please do not chainsaw my house. Now, I can already see the scoffing, not in this group, but some people when I start talking. And remember the strong opinions about VLAN segmentation? Here we are. So yeah, you do some port forwards, so what? Well, here's one app. I talked about Blue Iris, right? 29,116 have it exposed to the internet right now. Now, Blue Iris does have an authentication page to it that you may enable, or you may not. I'm not going to say whether I clicked on any of those links because that would be wrong to ingress into someone's network without permission, but I have heard that if you click on some of those links, you could be looking at the interior of things. I've heard. I wouldn't know. Now, remember when I said when everyone puts their wireless camera, or puts their IP cameras inside in their protect, remember when I said that, and no one would port forward that? Well, 5,107,724 by searching for IP camera told me that was a lie. People are exposing these to the internet. And if you look at some of the the information on the headers, they're straight raw IP cameras, just exposed right to the internet today. So let's not be like that. Home automation. This is from Habitat. This is their support person that hangs out in the forums. It says, just a reminder that we do not recommend port forwarding to enable remote access to your Habitat Elevation Hub, especially without password protection. Well, 273 people decided that was silly. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, what are they going to do, turn your lights on and off? Now, if you heard in the previous presentation, they were saying your deadbolt is actually Z-Wave secure, Z-Wave Plus, which it is. However, if I have access to your hub, what does that matter? If I have access to your hub, I can open your door. I bet you probably integrated it with your garage door, so now I can open your garage door, and you literally did a port forward to a device that was never meant to live on the internet. Now, there are secure ways to do that, and we'll talk about that, But just as, like, I love to make these real and say, yes, people are doing this and happening out in the wild. Now, I focused a lot on home stuff, right? A lot of home IoT, all that. I want to talk about enterprise. That surely never happens in enterprise. I literally just Googled Mitsubishi Electric. They make HVAC equipment. And I found 86 people that put their air conditioning control system on the web. I guarantee, well, maybe not. Maybe you do have a Mitsubishi control system at your home, which you have a giant house or some commercial needs, which is cool. But 86 folks thought they'd put that on the internet, which, and I can already tell you the user story. The user story is a contractor said, we need access to this to do remote diagnostics and do work on it. We need you to expose this to us on the internet. That's probably what it went down. Ask me how I know that, and I can go into more detail, but I won't do it on camera. On that topic, though, one other thing I want to point out. Sorry, I'm trying to look at this backwards. Port 8081. Are you really fooling anyone? Really? We're gonna move it to 8081. That'll work. So, it's happening now. On that topic of corporate HVAC controllers, how many people have seen those self-serve markets where, like, if you got like a break room in your office, you could actually go buy something in that? Where's that plugged down on your corporate network? Is that on your internal workstations? Do you have it on a segregated network? Questions to ponder, right? The newest one that I found interesting, temperature scanning devices and kiosks, thanks to the pandemic. Has anyone seen those? The automated scannings where you walk up to it and it scans you? Facilities said they needed one of those. They plop it down, they saw an Ethernet jack, and they went and popped it in. Where did that go? Is that on your corporate protected network? Is that on an IoT network? Things to consider. Door control systems for your badges, to badge in and out of your office. Fun fact, fun story about that one. I've got alerts that basically are looking at any time something gets plugged into my corporate network, it sends an alert if it doesn't match what my corporate machines look like, right? It'll say, hey, you generally have a name like this. This is something different. And sometimes it just didn't get the host name. In an ideal world, we'd all have 802.1x and it'd automatically move you to what network you want, but sadly, a lot of people haven't gone that direction yet because it requires work. All of a sudden, I see a Raspberry Pi plugged in, and I was like, great, here we go. Got to go find who plugged a Pi in. So I start running down, trying to find it, looking for the usual suspects that would do something like this. Can't find it. Based on the network, I knew where it was, like where in the building it was. I'm like, where on earth is this Pi? And I'm walking around, and I can't find it. And then I look over, and in the facilities area, they're testing a new building control system. And I said, and it doesn't look like a Pi. It is in a hard metal box. It looks like a legit piece of hardware. And I go, did you just plug that in? He's like, oh yeah, we're testing it out. It's great. Yeah, it was a Raspberry Pi in a big metal box. My anger is strong. No, it's fine. Just tell me if you're going to plug something like that. I'll tell you where to put it, and we can make it a nice little spot. So I'd be amiss without a Winnie the Pooh meme, of course. Allowing UPnP to forward your ports, performing manual packet forwarding, or do what I like to do, only forward in a VPN. Now, I don't know, has anyone ever heard of zero tier? Zero tier, really awesome. If you don't want to deal with certificates and all the other stuff and the uncomfortableness that comes with VPNs, zero tier is your ticket. Basically, you drop a client on your machine. You could also put it on your firewall or your router, your edge device. You join it via their web portal via a unique ID. An administrator has to go and accept it. You can push routes down to everyone. Completely decentralized. You can actually do layer 2 bridging if you want to play old school LAN games, like old school stuff. You can do some cool layer 2 bridging. Fantastic for this. It's free up to 50 devices. Go ahead and try it. Excuse me. You can put it on your phone if you want to look at your cameras remotely. You can do gateway redirection if you want to browse safely in a coffee shop, any of that good stuff. So yeah, it's a great option. So now, the stuff that we need to add, like I've titled this slide, all right, fine, you've convinced me, which I don't think I've convinced anyone here. This is mostly best practices. This is stuff we've been knowing for years, but we kind of forget about. So what do you need to do? And I'm going to say the first one, I might get some hate. Ditch your consumer-grade router, firewall, access point, all-in-one that you bought. Sorry, say goodbye to it. Or if it will run double DWRT or OpenWrt, cool, you can still use it. Get rid of it, and I'll tell you why. Now, on that note, you're going to say, well, that sounds really expensive. Have you seen how much the new fancy ones with the alien antennas look like on them? Like you go in there and you can spend $300 on a tiny little access point, right? So it's not a money thing. But get an older PC or there's tons of great options in the secondhand market, and I can talk more about those in detail later if you want to find me, and put an open source router distribution on it. Get yourself a switch that can do some VLANs, and get yourself an access point, and I'll show you some things that we need to do with that. Get an older PC and install open source router distro. There's a ton of them, and they're great. There's OpenSense, there's PSSense, Untangle, not all these are open source. That's kind of a miss thing on the slides. Untangle, Sophos UTM-XG, BIOS, ClearOS, tons of options. Try them all. Find the one you like the most, because all of them will probably have more features than you're used to, which is great. I personally have tried them all. I'm an OpenSense guy. I've been running it for years and years and years. I love it, and I'll show you a little bit more. But yeah, give them a try. See which one works for you. Now, get yourself a switch that can do VLANs. Now, you're going to say, well, those are pretty expensive. Secondhand enterprise ones, $60. I'm not kidding. Even during the global chip shortage, you can still get them because enterprises are throwing them away because they're old and outdated. I don't care that much that they're old and outdated as long as they work for me. Now, we could have the argument, well, they're not getting security updates, but that's another day. If you want to go the new route, totally get it. 24-port, reputable vendor, $100 right now today. You can get them today. If you want cheap options and you want to go that, this little, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Zixel, whatever, it's $25. It does VLANs, it does QoS, does jumbo frames, it'll do link aggregation. I've actually deployed several of those and they've been nothing but great. They're $25, okay? So the third piece of that is get a standalone access point. And the reason why is you want to do three main things. You want to be able to do VLAN tagging, you want to be able to do guest isolation, and you want to run multiple SSIDs. Now, tons of options in this arena. Now remember, you don't have to replace the whole Wi-Fi for your house to do this. You could actually just buy one of these standalone access points just to serve your IoT and your guest networks and all that stuff. It doesn't have to be blazing fast. You can get in the Ruckus R500 range for $50. I probably, since I've been preaching home labbing and all this stuff, I've probably led people to install 25 to 30 of those, and everyone loves them. They're great. But they do all these great features. Ubiquity is great. You can get various options in those. TP-Link has some in that arena as well, and this is why you need one. It gives you this wonderful option right here to do wireless client isolation, which means your wireless clients on the same SSID cannot talk to each other, period. So when you add an IoT device to your network, it's a lonely IoT by itself, and it doesn't know anyone exists. It is completely by itself. Cue the forever alone meme right now. You can also say, you can't talk to anything wired on this network either. So if you truly want to segment stuff off, you can do this today. $50 is the entry points. They obviously have more expensive ones you can get up there, but this is a great way to start, and it's a great way to start kind of siphoning off these things. And if you were trying to look into this project as, I need to change everything today, you're going to fail because it's too much. It's too much to ingest and too much to figure out. Take a bit by bit. Build your SSID for your IoT devices, get the settings set up how you want them, and grab one thing and move it. And have a look. Does it still work? Great. Are my rules too restrictive? Are they too permissive? Do we need to adjust things? Move those things in bit by bit. Eventually, you'll have them all in there. Now, I always like to start with the IoT wireless SSID stuff. I start there first. I've got one that's basically the same name of my access point, _IoT. And I have host isolation mode, so they can't talk to each other. And then I start with a very permissive rule set, because I don't want it to break while I'm in the process. If you want to upset the people in your house, start breaking the things they've come accustomed to. So start simple. And it's okay to be overly permissive. You can use some cool tools like Dentopng or other NetFlow tools to see who it's reaching out to and how much data. If it's reaching out to something once in a blue moon, it may or may not be critical for that device function. You could probably kill it off. So I want to take a practical look at that. This is Dentopng. Has anyone ever used Dentopng? Cool, a few people. Totally free. It's built into OpenSense. You just add it as a plugin. And it can visualize everything across your network. Everything that crosses through that gateway, it can visualize it. So as a case study, I chose a car wall charger right here. And you see it's on VLAN 5, which is my IoT VLAN. And then it's got some 700 megs worth of data that's transferred back and forth. So I've identified this device, and then I can drill down and take a look at the application protocols that it talks. Now, these slides are out of order, so this is more of a holistic view of the whole network. But on the next one, these are the applications it's used. Amazon, Cloudflare, probably tells me that the coordination for this device is out in EC2 somewhere. And we probably need to keep that going. And you can set rules to say, hey, you can talk out EC2, that's just fine, not a problem. Granted, they'd be a little permissive, but it is, in a situation like this, it's probably the best thing. One interesting thing I saw down here at the bottom, why is my car charger talking Tor? That was shored up as I made this talk. You know, NTP, no big deal, TLS, obviously. So yeah, they're using Amazon Cloudflare, DHCP, stuff like that. So that's how you whittle it down. If you wanted to whittle down even further, you can click on one of those hosts, or one of those endpoints, and then get the virus total reputation on it. So if you don't know what that is, you can actually click on that and say, here's the reputation that we think that this site is. Now, if you did this on a IP camera, for example, it'll be lit up red. A lot of stuff, since things are out in Amazon, it's going to say, yeah, it's an EC2 instance. What are you going to do about it? That's kind of where you get into it. So, coming full circle here, what does it look like when you're done? This is a lie. It's never done. You'll be tweaking this forever. But mine currently looks like this right now. I've got a DMZ on VLAN 15 right here. What that DMZ is, that's for my HA proxy. That's where that's out listening. That's where my traffic listeners or my virtual IPs live if I want to bring something in for a test. I don't leave things permanently ingressing in, but sometimes you do need to test a quick thing, and it lives in the DMZ with its listener, and then it forwards something in the server data network. I've got a workstation VLAN for all my hardwired things. I've got the IP camera island of sadness over here. I have a VoIP network because I thought it would be really cool to have like phones in every room. So I did my own like asterisk server, and I had like a SIP phone in like each room. And then I remembered I lived by myself. And like I'd literally like call another room, like, oh, it's ringing. And then I'd like do announcements. I'd be like, this is an announcement. This is Shaun. Dinner will be in half an hour. Thanks, Shaun. You know, I still have it. Maybe I'll use it again. I don't know. I do have IoT for Wi-Fi and wired. I do have a guest Wi-Fi network, and it is open. And a lot of people are probably scratching their heads saying, Shaun, why do you have a guest Wi-Fi network? Because it's super interesting the things people will give up when they want free Wi-Fi. Super interesting. You want my Facebook login? You betcha. Nothing nefarious, of course. And then I've got one for tabs and phones. I like to separate those from my workstations just for my own like organizational reasons and all that stuff. But yeah, that's what mine looks like. It will probably evolve 30 more times by the time I tell someone about this again, but that's currently how it is. On that note, does anyone have any questions for me? Yes? Okay, cool. That's a very good question. So depending on the type of device, let's just take a device that requires MDNS, for example, right? A casting device, right? If you've got all your IoT Chromecasts hanging out on an IoT network that are isolated, and all my tablets are on a different VLAN like I had it, you have to have some form of bridge to bridge that MDNS traffic. And that's what's known as an VAHI Reflector. And that's actually a package in OpenSense you can install and say, anything MDNS on this network, I want to reflect over there. So if I do want to cast something out, I can do that and bridge those two networks. In other cases where it's like I need to do a discovery to find all my other peers on this SAD network, sometimes you have to open up a rule to let that happen and then lock it back down. And sometimes you have to basically fire the device or say goodbye to a device that you maybe don't need as much more. I had one brand of camera I did like. The picture quality was amazing. It was fast. It was stable. It was a wonder. It was great. But it hammered, and tried to hammer at least, everything every few seconds. Like, hey, give me all the cameras. Hey, find me all the cameras. So much that my firewall was actually bouncing every time that would happen. It would kind of like start hurting my performance back when I had a lower performing firewall. So I ended up having to fire that camera, unfortunately. Any more questions? Sorry, I feel like a whopper under the heat lights right now. Yeah, go ahead. Uh-huh. Yes, so I have actually gone through, and that was kind of the point where me going to the store that will remain unnamed that I'm no longer welcome at. I wanted to opt out and then Wireshark to see if it's still tried, because I could only try on the TVs that I had in my own house, which I wish I had the budget to buy every TV. I do not. But yes, I have opted out and then seen traffic go to unknown EC2 instances and stuff where I'm like, I don't know what this is. I opted out, but there's obviously still something going out, and they're really tricky with the domains they're using, so there's not really an easy like DNS thing. One thing I can say absolutely you should do is run Pi-hole or NextDNS on your home network to kill all those advertising domains right from the get-go. That's probably the first thing I would do. Second thing I've done is I've actually profiled my TV and said, okay, and with Dentopng, you can actually see the application breakdown and say, okay, for my application, you're allowed Netflix, you're allowed YouTube, you're allowed these particular like CDNs, you know, where they distribute their video or their video distribution networks, and locked it down to that. Granted, your TV will be kind of funky because some features that normally are quiet and they just don't work will start barking at you. But I found using your Pi-hole or your NextDNS to kind of kill those advertising ones, that actually worked pretty well. Yes, in the back. Right. Absolutely. And I've seen very similar behavior where they'll be like, haha, thanks for that DNS server, you gave me DHCP, I'm gonna use mine. I'm like, oh no, you don't. Actually, I have a rule on my firewall, both in corporate and at home. These are the allowed DNS server, and it's mine, and no one else. I think there's another question somewhere. I have seen a lot of that work. I've never done any myself. It seems super cool because obviously it's just a sensor and some software, right? So it seems super upfront. I don't care that the cameras are naughty because they're living in their sad little network. Like, be naughty, like whatever, you know. Yeah. Oh yes. I was given one as a promotional item at a large convention that does virtualization. You can make any guesses there if you want. They handed me a plug, a little smart plug in there, and absolutely, it was reaching out to who knows what. And honestly, it probably was reaching out to their application servers, so you can control their app. But 100% yes. Like unless you're going from like a reputable manufacturer, like your Philips Hues, your Levitons, your TP-Link costs like that, I'd just avoid them, honestly. It's just, rolling your own home automation is nowhere near as complex and terrible as it used to be. The solutions now, even the DIY ones where you get a Raspberry Pi and put a radio in it, they're pretty straightforward. They're pretty great. And then the other thing is you're not locked in, right? Like that was always my biggest complaint is if you buy a cloud-connected device, you're married to it until you throw it away. I've changed my home automation hub 4 times now. I've done Habitat, which I'm on currently. I've done Samsung SmartThings, I've done OpenHab and Home Assistant, and each time I do it, if anyone's ever done Z-Wave, I had to unpair and repair every device. Yes, it's miserable, but at least I didn't have to pull them out of my walls. So, cool. If there's no more questions, I'll hang out over there if you want to come just do it quietly, and thanks for coming.